Well, hey, welcome back to my shop. My name is Dima, and this is a part 2 build of the Tablesaw Wing workbench that you see right behind me. So in this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to mount the angle iron to the slab, we're going to size and fit the vise to the slab, and we're going to mount the whole workbench to the table saw, and I'll show you how I did that. So the first thing I did is I cut a dado on the tabletop on one of the ends that I'm going to install the vise. And what this is going to be used for is I'm going to glue in a floating tenon so I can line up the jaw. So now I'm just marking out where the bottom of the vise is going to go, and then marking out the holes that I'm going to need to drill for the guide rods and the screw of the vise. And here I drill all the holes for the guide rods and the screw, and at the same time drill a dog hole. So now is a good time to mount the angle iron to the tabletop, and I'm just using 3 holes, and then I countersink them, and I used 3 drywall screws to hold it down. And then I do kind of a rough fit to make sure that everything lines up and I won't have to do any tweaking. And right now I'm marking off where that little hump where the motor recess is, and this part needs to be kind of hollowed out so it clears that little hump. Your saw might not have this, but mine did. This doesn't have to be pretty, it's going to be under the table anyways, so I didn't use any guides, I just hollowed it out. So now is a good time to check to make sure that that pocket you milled out clears that hump. And here I'm just gluing one side of that floating tenon on the tabletop. I don't want to glue it to the jaw because in case I damage the jaw, I want to be able to remove it. While the glue is still fresh, it's probably a good idea to clean out any squeeze out. So once the glue dries, you can go ahead and install the vise jaw to the tabletop. And here I'm using 2 3/8 lag bolts with some washers. They are recessed below the surface so that way it doesn't damage the material I'm working with when I'm clamping them down. And as I've already mentioned, this one is not glued down, it's only bolted down. So now you can go ahead and mount the vise, thread it all the way down, make it all tight, pilot drill the holes that you're going to use for the screws, and just bolt the base down. And now you can pilot drill the holes for the other vise jaw and screw it down. So here I remove the angle iron, and I'm using the existing wing so I can mark out the holes that I need to drill out to mount it to the cast iron top. So I actually have the Delta T2 fence system, and that little part right there was going to be in the way, so I had to cut that off. I actually didn't throw this little piece away, I saved it so I can bolt it down under my table and I can use it to store my tape measures. So here I'm just clamping down some temporary support pieces to help me mount this mini bench to my table saw. And here I'm just using a stick or a straight edge to make sure that top is going to be nice and level with the cast iron top. Now because I have a cabinet built around my table saw, I put in some 2x4 legs on the outer edge of the mini workbench to support it a little bit, so that way if I'm beating on the table, it's not gonna bend it down or break it off. If you're planning to do this with the existing mobile base that this table saw or your table saw comes with, I don't think this is necessary to support the end. I just did so just for my own pleasure. So here you can see I couldn't put the 2x4 against the maple top because the vise was in the way, so I had to kind of be creative and put little spacer that clears that vise, and then that's bolted and glued to the 2x4. And both of those support legs are bolted down to the cabinet with 3/8 lag bolts. So now I just do a final sand with 150 grit sandpaper. I didn't want to go any finer because I wanted the surface to be rough so stuff doesn't slide around. And I applied a couple of coats of Danish oil. So the last thing to do is install the handle, apply the leather to the jaws, and install the whole assembly together and use it. And as you can see here, the dog holes are very useful and it's pretty strong. Well, hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, let me know by giving me a thumbs up. Comment down below if you got any additional questions that you might have, and subscribe to my channel right here if you haven't done so. Well, have fun in the shop, but be safe doing it. See you next time.